Welcome to the deep dive, where our focus is on structure, not on fleeting inspiration. If you, the listener, are tired of that whole emotional hype cycle, and you're maybe searching for a reliable, sustainable system for self-control.
Something that actually works.
Yes, something that works when life really hits back.
hmm
Then I think you're in the right place.
Today's deep dive is really custom tailored for that exact need. We're going to be putting motivation, which, relies on temporary feelings, external desires. We're putting it head to head with discipline.
And discipline is something entirely different.
Entirely. It's built on internal consistency, on reason, on choice. We're really looking for an operating system for life. One that doesn't crash when you're tired or stressed or, emotionally drained.
And our sources for this are, well, they're a pretty rigorous stack.
Mhm.
We're bridging ancient wisdom with the very acute pressures of modern life. We've reviewed core texts on Stoic practices, from Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, and we've connected them to modern applications. Things like high-performance project teams, clinical psychology.
And even some of the really current philosophical quandaries around, say, AI risk and governance. It's surprisingly relevant.
It really is. So just to be clear, our mission here is not to give you a rush of temporary self-belief.
No, this isn't a motivational speech.
Exactly. It is to equip you with reliable tools. Tools for clarity, for virtue, and for internal control.
The core thesis we're pursuing today is that the search for motivation is, in fact, often futile. It's futile because it's a search for an emotion,
A feeling.
a feeling, and feelings are fickle. Discipline, on the other hand, provides genuine freedom because it relies on intellectual choice. And that's a choice you can make in any single moment, regardless of how you happen to feel.
Okay, so let's unpack that fundamental distinction right away. Why is motivation, which feels so incredibly powerful when it shows up, why is it inherently so unreliable?
Well, because it's tethered to desire or emotion. Motivation is, by its very definition, either an external stimulus or an internal feeling that we hope will arrive to push us forward.
It's a surge.
It's a surge, exactly. It's that burst of dopamine you get when you start a new project or join a new gym, but it operates on a boom and bust cycle.
And when that feeling wanes, which it always does,
It inevitably will, and when it does, the action stops. The Stoic framework is so necessary, precisely because it acknowledges that this emotional engine just cannot be relied upon for any kind of long-term consistency.
so the philosophy is being offered up as a replacement engine entirely, like a whole new operating system.
That's a perfect way to put it. For people like Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome Stoicism wasn't an academic pursuit. It wasn't a hobby.
Oh.
It was a rigorous, daily, actionable practice for navigating immense responsibilities. We're talking about war, plague, imperial politics. The goal was practical.
And that goal was,
To achieve ataraxia, which is a kind of tranquil freedom, and euthymia, which is this lasting wisdom and emotional balance, what we would probably call equanimity today.
the ability to maintain calm and composure, especially when stress or adversity is at its highest.
Precisely when you need it most.
That concept of freedom often sounds a bit counterintuitive to the modern ear. We're taught that freedom means having the liberty to pursue any desire we feel. But the Stoics seem to turn that completely on its head.
They absolutely do, because if your freedom is defined as the ability to do whatever your current desire dictates, well, then you are, in fact, a slave. You're a slave to your impulses.
So Stoic freedom is the opposite.
It's achieved through the disciplined control of those emotions and desires. It's about guiding your actions solely by reason. And this is the critical difference between a reaction and a response.
I appreciate that idea of being free from my own limbic system, but doesn't that just sound like we're being asked to ignore genuine, maybe even righteous anger or fear? I mean, when I look at the chaos of the news cycle or just the demands of a high-pressure job, my emotions feel like a pretty necessary signal.
And they are necessary signals. The Stoic critique isn't that you shouldn't have emotions. It's that letting those signals drive your action is slavery. Epictetus, who himself was born into slavery, spoke so vividly about this.
What do you say?
He argued that if you lack control over your own thoughts and reactions, over what you think and what you feel, then you are condemned to what he called senseless slavery.
Senseless slavery.
You become a puppet reacting to the whims of the external world, whether that's an abusive boss, a frustrating traffic jam, or, the doom-scrolling algorithm on your phone that's literally designed to harvest your anxiety. Discipline starts with reclaiming sovereignty over that internal landscape.
And that internal landscape is where we apply the core insight, isn't it? the foundation of the whole approach, which Epictetus summarized so perfectly. We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them.
Yes.
That single line seems to completely define the scope of discipline.
It shifts the entire battlefield. If you are experiencing distress, the discipline demands you look inward first. The problem isn't the external event, the colleague who was rude, the project that failed, the investment that went south.
The problem is the judgment.
The problem is the emotional judgment or the story that you have applied to that event. It's the, this colleague ruined my day, or this failure means I'm incompetent.
Can you just model that shift for us, the real-world difference between the event and the judgment?
Of course. Let's say you receive a harsh, critical email from a senior manager. The event is objective. It's a series of electronic characters. They're stating factual shortcomings or demands for correction.
Okay, data.
Just data. The judgment is subjective. That's where you get, this manager hates me, or I am being targeted, or I'm fundamentally incompetent.
I see.
The event is external, and it's completely uncontrollable. The manager sent it. But the judgment, that's internal, and it's completely within your power to review and revise. This is the bedrock of cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, today.
Right. CBT is all about identifying and challenging those irrational beliefs.
Exactly. It forces you to change your interpretation of the event, not the event itself. Discipline means focusing your intellectual effort where it actually matters, on the quality of your judgment.
So the moment we accept that our suffering comes from our judgment, that's when we're ready to apply the most foundational tool for discipline. And that is the dichotomy of control. This is often called the Stoic fork. The brutal but very clarifying act of distinguishing between what is truly up to us and what is not up to us.
And it's so much more than a philosophical concept. It's the essential cognitive algorithm for managing complexity and limiting your emotional expenditure. When you're faced with any situation, the disciplined mind immediately starts sorting inputs into these two categories.
And not doing so is the source of our problem.
It is. Seneca warned that focusing your finite energy on what you cannot influence is the primary source of frustration, disappointment, and that pervasive sense of powerlessness we all feel sometimes.
So let's get really meticulous here. Let's detail the controllable domain.
Yeah.
What exactly is considered up to us?
We have to be incredibly precise about this because this is where your freedom resides. What you control are your values and your adherence to them, the formation of your judgments and your opinions, your attitude in any given moment.
My intention.
Your intention, your desire or your aversion, your reasoned choice, and crucially, the initiation of an action. This domain is described as inherently free, unbounded, and unhindered.
Why?
Because no external force can compel you to change your fundamental opinion or your intention without your consent. They can coerce you, but they can't make you believe something you don't.
Okay, so that's the internal. Now let's look outside that boundary. What falls squarely into the uncontrollable, the external domain?
Basically everything else. This includes your physical body, your health, sickness, age, your property, your reputation, your status, and luck. The fickle nature of chance.
And the big one.
And the big one, the vast realm of other people. This means you cannot control a consultant's bad attitude, a manager's unjust opinions, the market's reaction to your product.
The weather.
The weather, the fact that a colleague had a difficult childhood that influences their interpersonal style. Any external event. The Stoics called these things weak, slavish, and constrained because they're subject to countless variables outside your reach.
This sounds intensely difficult to apply in a business context, a place where success is so often measured by purely external metrics. Securing a deal, hitting a revenue target, getting that promotion. If I truly internalize this, won't I lose my drive, my ambition?
That is the essential and difficult question, and the Stoics address it through a concept called goal internalization.
Goal internalization.
Yes. Discipline requires shifting your metric of success from the external result to the internal effort and character. The key is not to renounce ambition, but to redefine what constitutes a successful effort.
So external things like wealth, status, health.
Yeah.
What are they?
They're called preferred indifference. It's nice to have them. They are preferred.
Yeah.
But they are not the source of your core value or your happiness. They are indifferent to your character.
So how does that shift actually manifest in a measurable way? Can you give us a clear model?
Let's use two. First, a sports analogy. A tennis player might be obsessed with winning the tournament. That's an external outcome.
Right. Depends on the opponent, the ref, the weather.
Everything. Goal internalization means the disciplined focus shifts. It shifts to things like, executing my serve with 95% maximum effort, or maintaining concentration for every single point, or applying the strategy I developed with my coach.
All things that are 100% within their control.
Exactly. So if they lose the match, but they maximize their effort and stuck to their internal strategy, they have succeeded by the only metric that truly matters, the execution of their character.
Okay. And in a more professional context, you mentioned the salary example.
Right. Focusing on achieving a specific high salary is external. It depends on market dynamics, the company budget, the hiring manager's subjective view of you that day.
So many uncontrollables.
So the disciplined, internalized goal focuses instead on things like developing undeniable expertise in my field, or expanding my professional knowledge base by 2 relevant skills this quarter, or consistently delivering maximum quality in my current role.
These actions are all controllable.
100%. The salary becomes the natural byproduct of that internalized discipline. But your peace of mind, your resilience, they're no longer reliant on receiving that specific paycheck.
This really anchors you, doesn't it? If the outcome fails to materialize, the practitioner is still centered because their metric for success, which was character and process, was met. It directly builds resilience against the chaos of a fickle world.
And this isn't just theory. We have empirical validation for this in modern high-stakes work environments. Our sources detailed a study on high-performance project teams where managers were surveyed based on Stoic principles.
Right. And these principles were grouped into 2 measurable categories, the person category and the efficiency category. Can you detail what those actually measured in a corporate setting?
Sure. The person characteristics focused heavily on internal control. This included virtues like emotional regulation, the ability to remain calm under pressure, and reality perception.
Which is that stoic ability to see things objectively without the catastrophic judgment we just talked about.
Exactly. In a high-stakes team meeting, this means the discipline manager remains objective when a key milestone is missed. They choose not to succumb to panic or blame, but rather to just analyze the fact pattern.
Okay. And the efficiency characteristics, how were those measured?
Those directly measured the application of the dichotomy of control. They measured a controllable focus, so prioritizing actions based on what the team can change right now.
Not what they wish they could change.
No. It also measured learning from mistakes without punitive blame and valuing the strategic use of time. The efficiency is derived from energy conservation. You're not wasting time worrying about external factors you can't control.
And the data was conclusive.
Absolutely. The study found that these Stoic postulates had a significant positive impact on project team performance. It specifically validated that personal internal characteristics, like acting with virtue, controlling emotions, and the efficiency characteristics, controllable focus learning, directly enhanced performance and value creation.
Wow. So it reframes project team management from just a purely engineering process to one where human character and philosophy are essential performance multipliers.
Correct. So in essence, the disciplined individual who minimizes the time they spend worrying about uncontrollable external factors.
Like the client's irrational demands.
Right. And maximizes time spent on their own effort and expertise. That person is empirically proven to be more effective. The workplace becomes a laboratory for character development.
Okay, so we've established what is controllable. Now we need the tool for actually managing the input stream. This takes us to fantasia-cataleptic objective representation. This is the cognitive discipline that intercepts our emotional reaction before it spirals into a catastrophe.
I'd argue this is the secret skill of practical Stoicism. It's the active practice of stripping away the subjective, the moral, the emotional layers that we unconsciously paint onto neutral events.
Because our default brain is a catastrophe machine.
It excels at it. Our untrained brain overestimates severity and probability. A missed deadline immediately transforms into, I'm going to be fired, my career's over, I'll never pay my bills.
So fantasia-cataleptic is the active process of decatastrophization. It forces us to see a setback not as a life-ending disaster, but simply as a fact, a natural occurrence.
The core demand of this practice is the radical acceptance of what is. And I have to emphasize, acceptance is not defeat. It's not passive resignation.
What is it then?
It is embracing the moment as the only reality available, and therefore the only moment that is ripe for virtuous action. When you truly accept the facts of a situation, divorced from your emotional story about it, there is no internal struggle.
The simile of the dog, tethered to the moving cart, illustrates this perfectly, doesn't it?
It does. The cart's movement represents the external facts of life. A repression, a sudden illness, the loss of a relationship. The dog is the individual.
And if the dog resists,
Resistance fighting the facts means the dog is dragged. It suffers needlessly while still moving in the cart's direction anyway. Acceptance means recognizing the leash's inevitable pull, choosing to walk alongside the cart, and encountering no struggle.
when you face an undeniable, uncontrollable fact, that recognition is the fantasia cataleptic moment, you align your perception with reality.
And you realize that resistance is a choice that guarantees suffering.
A huge part of this active acceptance relies on the discipline of language, how we structure our internal and external narrative. The sources are very clear that emotionally charged language just feeds the fire of negative feeling.
This is a critical point for modern discipline. If you get that harshly critical email and your internal monologue immediately uses hypercharged language, this is an outrage, what an idiot, this is going to destroy me.
You are actively pouring gasoline onto your limbic system.
So the language is both a result of the emotion and a cause of it getting worse. It's a feedback loop. They accelerate each other. The disciplined mind has to substitute judgment for data, use objective, pared-down descriptions to de-escalate.
So back to the critical email, what does that sound like in practice?
The emotional narrative says, I received an unfair, aggressive email designed to undermine my career. The objective, disciplined description says, I received a message containing points A, B, and C, and the tone was direct.
Or in traffic when someone cuts you off.
Instead of, that self-satisfied smug jerk is ruining my morning, the objective representation is simply, a vehicle changed lanes in front of mine, or even just, a horn is being honked.
You're just stating the facts.
Switching from subjective judgment to objective data prevents the negative emotion from taking root. As Hamlet said, there's nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so.
This cognitive reframing then moves the mind through a rational, action-oriented sequence. It pulls us out of that anxiety loop. And there's a 4-step sequence for this, right? To prioritize action over analysis.
Yes. When anxiety hits, we get stuck in that recursive what-if loop. What if the client cancels? What if my pitch fails? Discipline guides us out using 4 steps. The first step is a shift from external blame to internal accountability. You ask, why did I?
So you stop asking, why did they do this? Or why did this happen to me?
Immediately. Instead, you ask, why did I make that particular choice in this situation? Or what was my role in the origin of this event? This focuses the lens right back on the controllable domain. If you missed a deadline, the question is not, why is this system so slow, but why did I wait until the last minute to start the process?
That immediately reclaims power. It forces you out of victim mode and into learner mode.
Exactly. Step 2 is to diminish the crisis. You ask, so what? This is the moment for perspective. You acknowledge the challenge, and then you place it in its proper scale.
So the internal monologue is something like, so what if I miss the deadline?
So what? This challenge is natural. I have faced challenges before. This is an uncomfortable but normal part of working life. I can survive this. This reduces the emotional heat and prevents the perceived crisis from ballooning into a life-defining disaster.
And acknowledging that the challenge is natural is a key part of that.
It is, because it connects us to the universal human experience. Every single high achiever you can think of has faced rejection, setbacks, and failure. This is not unique to you.
And step 3.
Step 3 is to focus on the actionable. What's next? This is the mental brain hack. Once the crisis is diminished, the mind cannot be allowed to linger. You have to immediately shift focus to the smallest, most immediate controllable task.
So if the critical email demands revisions,
The next step is open the document and outline the revision strategy. It is not spend 3 hours dwelling on the manager's tone.
but focusing on what's next pulls the mind away from that anxiety-fueled rumination and activates the action-oriented part of the brain.
It creates momentum. And the final overarching theme here is that this is not emotional suppression. You are allowed to feel frustrated or angry or disappointed.
Feelings are valid.
The feelings are valid. The practice creates space between the stimulus and your response. And that space, which Viktor Frankl famously spoke of, that's where you insert your disciplined, reasoned choice instead of resorting to a conditioned emotional reaction.
Okay, so if discipline is this consistent set of actions, we need a reliable blueprint for which actions to perform. And for the Stoics, that blueprint is the cardinal virtues.
That's right.
Discipline is the sustained effort performed to achieve moral excellence, which they defined as eudaimonia, or true human flourishing and happiness.
And virtue is the highest good because it's the only thing that is entirely within your controllable domain. All the achievements, the wealth, the status, those are merely indifference. Your character is the ultimate goal.
And these four virtues, practical wisdom, temperance, justice, and courage, act as an internal GPS.
They do. They guide your choices, especially when you're under intense pressure.
Let's start with practical wisdom, or prudence. This sounds like basic common sense, but it's much more rigorous than that, isn't it?
It is. It's the intellectual ability to navigate complex, murky situations logically. It's achieved by strengthening your self-knowledge and learning from experience, which then allows you to choose the most rational response path.
So it's about differentiating good from bad.
Fundamentally, yes. Knowing what should be pursued, what should be avoided, and what is truly indifferent. In modern terms, it's not just having knowledge, but knowing how and when to apply it effectively in these high variability environments we all work in.
Okay, next is temperance, which seems to be the very definition of the kind of self-control we're trying to cultivate through discipline.
Temperance is really the engine of discipline. It's the willpower, the moderation, the self-control that's required to avoid giving in to impulses, instincts, or temporary pleasures.
It's about setting aside ego.
It's setting aside ego, vanity, the demand for immediate gratification, and focusing your finite energy on a higher, purposeful objective. It's the ability to say no to yourself when it's necessary.
The third virtue is justice, which extends discipline beyond the personal sphere into how we interact with the community.
Yes, justice is about acting with fairness, morality, and integrity toward others. It means focusing on the common good. The disciplined person acts justly even when it might be costly to their personal status or gain.
And the reward is internal.
The reward is simply having done the right thing. This concept is crucial for modern work, as that project team research demonstrated. Justice builds trust, and it privileges the cosmopolitan ideal, seeing others as fellow human beings deserving of respect, regardless of their position or their behavior.
And finally, courage, which is so often misunderstood as just reckless bravery.
Stoic courage is not recklessness. It's the ability to act correctly despite fear, obstacles, or uncertainty. It allows you to do the right thing when circumstances demand it, without letting fear or anger or sadness cloud your thought process.
And it must be connected to wisdom.
It must always be married to prudence. Foolish, reckless action is not stoic courage. Marcus Aurelius emphasized that what stands in the way becomes the way. The obstacle is not a barrier, it's the necessary training ground for developing courage and resilience.
Let's use that high-pressure medical example again, but this time, can you show how all four virtues would work together for a medical professional dealing with a hostile consulting physician?
A perfect test of discipline. So the external event is the consultant's uncontrolled hostility, an undeniable fact you can't change.
Okay.
First, prudence guides the action. The physician uses their clinical knowledge to logically assess the situation, determining the best course of treatment for the patient regardless of all the noise.
Then temperance comes in.
Yes, temperance is the disciplined response. The physician immediately applies self-restraint, controlling their own emotional reaction. They refuse to mirror the hostility or get into a shouting match, which conserves emotional energy for the patient.
Where it's needed.
Exactly. Third, justice focuses the intent. The primary focus is the common good, the patient's well-being. This requires the physician to be firm in their medical discretion, setting aside personal offense for the greater moral imperative.
And finally, courage provides the backbone for all of this.
It does. It takes courage to stand firm against professional anger or antagonism while remaining calm and rational. The physician maintains professional excellence, acting virtuously even when the external environment is completely toxic.
So the discipline, then, is the consistent ability to prioritize that internal virtue like justice over the external reaction of anger or defensiveness, no matter the pressure.
It's the operational framework. You choose the virtue, and discipline provides the technique to execute that choice.
We've established that discipline is paramount, but like any muscle, it needs training. So how do we move from understanding these virtues to actually cultivating measurable resilience? The sources stress that resilience is not an inherent trait, it's a deliberate practice.
It's cultivated through daily, repeatable habits that build emotional fortitude. This is the difference between hoping for strength and systematically training for it.
So what does that training look like?
It involves structured rituals, things like dedicated mindfulness, even just 90-second focused breathing exercises, or daily journaling. The simple act of externalizing your thoughts through writing facilitates self-reflection. It allows you to practice that fantasia cataleptic by reviewing events objectively.
So when your mood inevitably dips, The routine carries you.
The structure of discipline carries you forward, regardless of the feeling.
One of the most powerful and seemingly counterintuitive training methods you mentioned is voluntary discomfort. Why should a disciplined person intentionally seek out hardship?
Because resilience is the capacity to adapt to hardship. If you only ever train for comfort, you will shatter when discomfort arrives uninvited, as it always does.
You're building calluses.
Mental calluses. By intentionally choosing small, safe difficulties, like skipping a meal in a safe fast, taking a cold shower, doing a digital detox, you are consciously overriding the impulse for comfort. You're proving to yourself that your happiness is not dependent on external ease.
So enduring the hardships you choose prepares you for the ones you don't.
It's a dress rehearsal for adversity. It provides the essential mental toughness to deal with the inevitable hardships that life will impose on you.
Related to this is the discipline of preparation, premeditatio malorum. This practice, often called negative visualization, is frequently misunderstood. People think it's just dwelling on the worst.
But it's actually a sophisticated risk management tool. It's an inoculation against shock.
How does it work?
This discipline involves mentally rehearsing potential controllable setbacks. They can be minor inconveniences, missing a flight, losing a password, or major life disruptions like loss of property, illness, even death. Seneca wrote that we need to envisage every possibility and strengthen the spirit to deal with them.
So the purpose is not to generate fear.
No, not at all. It's to generate preparation and fortitude. It reduces the shock factor when misfortune actually strikes.
Because by contemplating these possible misfortunes in advance, you minimize the surprise element.
Exactly. Nothing comes unforeseen to those who are prepared and expectant. You've already paid the psychological price. If you lose a contract, you've already mentally rehearsed. If this happens, what is the next step? Who do I call? What is my disciplined response? It reduces the emotional freefall because your character already has a rehearsed plan.
But wait, what about the reserve clause? How do I apply that without undermining my commercial drive and confidence? If I'm rehearsing failure and adding fate permitting to all my goals, doesn't that make my pursuit tentative?
That is the essential tension, and it's a great question. The discipline is to separate the effort from the outcome. The reserve clause is the psychological safety net that resolves this tension.
Then you still go all in.
You pursue the goal with 100% intensity and discipline. You are fully committed to the controllable effort. However, you attach the caveat, fate permitting or God willing, to the external outcome itself.
I see. So the effort is total, but the attachment to the result is loose.
It ensures you maintain certainty of purpose, which is maximum effort, while acknowledging the uncertainty of results. You're pursuing the goal vigorously, but holding the external outcome loosely, ready for success or failure with equanimity. It allows for maximum effort without the emotional fragility.
Let's turn to a major contemporary challenge.
Yeah.
How does this Stoic discipline provide a framework for managing modern chaos, specifically the complex debate around artificial intelligence risk?
The dichotomy of control provides the perfect, dispassionate framework for this kind of risk assessment. Discipline demands that we balance our attention and our capital on immediate, controllable risks over speculative, distant, existential threats.
So we have two distinct camps in the AI debate. Those focused on narrow, immediate AI issues, and those focused on the distant, speculative threat of a super AGI singularity.
Right. And Stoicism would advise immediate focus on the controllable risks posed by narrow AI, because those are impacting us right now.
And what are those?
These are systemic issues like accountability frameworks, massive privacy violations through data harvesting, algorithmic bias that entrenches inequality, the rapid spread of deepfakes and misinformation.
And exploitative work practices.
Yes, exploitative work practices used to train these models. These are things we can and we must regulate, legislate, and act upon today. This is the controllable sphere.
And the more speculative, distant threat, the AGI singularity event where machine intelligence surpasses human control.
That future event, while potentially catastrophic, is largely outside of our current immediate control. Stoicism warns against letting the anxiety of that distant, speculative risk paralyze action on the immediate, controllable problems.
So direct our finite efforts where they can have an impact now.
Precisely. The fear of the unknown shouldn't overshadow the pressing problems presented by the technology that is already operational today.
This speaks directly to the Stoic rebuttal of the lazy argument.
Absolutely. The lazy argument says, if AGI is inevitable, or if some catastrophic outcome is destined, why bother acting now?
It's a recipe for inaction.
It is, and the Stoics countered this by insisting that destiny includes our actions. Discipline requires active participation in the controllable sphere. We cannot fall into inaction just because ultimate outcomes are unpredictable. We have to focus our limited resources on preventable issues right now.
Finally, in an age that's really defined by digital distraction and information overload, discipline seems to find a profound expression in simplicity.
Simplicity is a modern competitive advantage. We are drowning in low-value commitments, unnecessary notifications, and decision fatigue.
So discipline here means intentionally decluttering.
Yes. Decluttering our schedules, our environments, our digital inputs, turning off non-essential notifications, eliminating low-value recurring meetings, curating our environment just to reduce noise.
And this isn't just about some aesthetic minimalism. It's a strategic choice.
It is entirely strategic. Simplicity maximizes attention and conserves energy, which are our most finite and valuable resources. By reducing distraction, we create the necessary mental space for gratitude, for clarity of purpose, and for purposeful action that's aligned with virtue. Simplicity provides an internal calm amidst all the external technological noise.
This deep dive really confirms that discipline isn't a burden. It's actually the truest path to personal freedom.
Right.
It's the intentional, consistent alignment of your judgment and your actions with your core values, the cardinal virtues. It's the reliability of your character, practiced daily through tools like the dichotomy of control and objective representation.
And the ultimate reward of all this demanding work is character transformation. It's the cultivation of courage, of patience, humility, and wisdom. The obstacles you face, whether it's a critical email or a failing project milestone, they are not blocks in your way.
They are the way.
They are the essential training exercises for virtue. The impediment to action advances action.
So you are defined not by what happens to you, but by the choices you make in response. The disciplined life is built on small, repeatable rituals, chosen with reason, independent of how you happen to feel when the alarm goes off.
So for you, the learner, we'll leave you with this final practical thought. Considering those four cardinal virtues, wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance, what single, tiny, controllable action aligned with one of those virtues can you commit to starting tomorrow morning?
Not an action based on temporary motivation.
No, an act of discipline, performed purely because your reason has determined it is the right thing to do. Let that discipline carry you forward.